Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smoking techs, electric smokers, feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. And folks, it is now Campfire Talk time with our buddy Larry Weishuhn, Mr. Whitetail. Larry, thank you for being with us. This is 20 years. We're going on 20 years.
Oh, my gosh, Luke.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of ways, it seemed like we started all this just a few days ago. But
Yep.
You know, you start thinking about, my gosh, that makes us over almost, if not over 1,000 different episodes that you and I have recorded together and visited about different things having to do with hunting and fishing, wildlife conservation, and told a few hunting stories and all those other kind of good things. Wow.
We've had an absolute ball. And, we have recorded together so much that it just we punch the button and bingo, we're gone. But half the time it's we'll try. Okay, let's talk about this today. We do have a topic that we are going to stick with it. By golly, we're not going to scattergun too much. But folks, Larry just got back. Well, a couple of weeks ago, actually, from Durango, Mexico, down in Mexico hunting Coues deer. I've never been down that far that's kind of the Pacific side over there in Durango, but I've never been right in that area, but I'll learn a few things. We're going to get Larry to talk about that. And Larry, the people that make it possible for you to be with us, such as Hornady and Stealth Vision, there's a bunch of folks that stick with you and make it possible for you to be on our show every week. So I'd like you to mention those. The Dallas Safari Club,
You're exactly right. And actually, that's where I am right now as we're recording this. I am in Atlanta, Georgia for the DSC convention that we got going on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So it's already started. And for those who are listening at the right time, and it really need to thank DSC. DSC is Conservation Education Hunter Advocacy, the finest hunting conservation organization there is in the world. And of course, I've been dealing with Hornady for a long, long time. Accurate, deadly, dependable, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. Stealth Vision, they're out of Crockett, Texas, the finest hunting optics that you can ever imagine. And then I do a fair amount of stuff too with handguns, with Taurus. Unfortunately, I couldn't take those into Mexico. You can't do that. So I was down there, quite frankly, with a 7mm PRC and the Precision Hunter 175 grain ELDX ammo. And the reason I mention that is that particular load in that 7mm PRC using that Stealth Vision scope is unbelievably accurate. I got tickled because several of the guys that were there on the hunt with me, they were borrowing rifles there in Mexico, which were pretty darn decent rifles, but none of them shot as well, no matter what caliber of round it was or optic they had on it as the rifle I took when we got there to kind of sight things in. Now, there was a multiple reason for going down on this hunt. This is the second year that I've been down there on the El Durangueno. It's about, 70,000 acres in the mountains, the very bottom end of the Sierra Madre Mountains in Mexico. We were hunting at anywhere from about 8,500 feet elevation to a little over 9,000 feet elevation. So different from all the Coues deer country that you find in the western part of Mexico, which is, mountains and high desert with a lot of cactus and all that kind of stuff. There, a lot of pine, a lot of oak, a lot of pinyon, a lot of cedar, and a tremendous number of the little Coues whitetail. Now, they're a subspecies of whitetail deer that's found primarily in Mexico, a little bit in New Mexico, a little bit in Arizona, and in the past they said they're in Texas, but really they're probably not. That's usually the little Carmen Mountain whitetail. But they were named after Dr. Elliott Coues, who was with Crook when they were chasing the Apaches years ago, and he described that deer. And a big buck, like I got fortunate. I hunted hard. I passed up a lot of bucks, and ended up shooting an 8-point that, most people kind of look at and go, yeah, you shot an 8-point kind of thing. But it only takes 110 Boone and Crockett points to get into the record book. So you start thinking about that. That's about a 13, 14-inch 8-point, with a decent mass and tine length. And anyway, we got into lots of deer down there, and I have to say that we also had Chris Clark down. Chris had bought the hunt through the DSC Foundation that we offered, that Alonzo Ayala, who happens to be the co-owner with his brother on that ranch, that he donated to the DSC Foundation Gala last July. And then had Terry Anderson. A lot of folks in our listening area up in the northeastern part of the state of Texas know Terry and know of him. And Terry was down there. Terry and I have been friends for a long, long time. But it was the first time we ever had a chance to really hunt together. So the hunt in so many different ways was good. Now we can talk about, I'll answer your questions about the hacienda, the land, and the food, any of that you might come up with, Luke.
Okay, Larry. Well, you told me that you had that Stealth Vision scope, and I've got one too on a 6.5 PRC.
Yes, sir.
My CVA Cascade that I've got. And I know I've seen you shooting yours, and how far. The reason I'm asking is how far is you can dial that thing in any reasonable distance that you would shoot a deer. You dial that yardage in and pull the trigger with that stealth scope. How far was that one? Was it a long shot or maybe not?
It depends on what people these days consider a long shot. A lot of people think it's not a long shot until you get out to 1,000 yards, which to me is ridiculous to shoot an animal that far.
Yes, for hunting, yeah.
This particular buck, we had seen him up on a ridge top about 500 yards away. He disappeared. I saw him again at about 600 yards running down the mountain. We took a little longer sitting where we were because we did a lot of sitting in glass and walking up onto the tops of some of these ridges and things. And finally, we dropped back down and we decided to drive kind of in the direction. There was a road. There was a few roads on this place. A lot of it's just stop and get out and walk kind of thing. But we're driving to that area where we'd last seen that buck. And the guy at Zordo, which is Mexican for lefty, he and I looked over to my right, and there he was. He was chasing a doe, and I jumped out, and of course, riding in a vehicle, I had pulled the shell out of my chamber of my rifle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I jumped out, ran over to a tree to get a good solid rest, flipped the safety off, and this deer was out there 300 yards, standing broadside. Clicked the safety off, pulled the trigger, and guess what happened? The rifle went click.
I've done that before. I bet our listeners have too. Yep, it happens.
So I quickly bolted in around, and by then he was starting to walk. But the rifle that I had with me, which was a Mossberg with a 20-inch barrel, that thing is extremely accurate, out to at least about 500-600 yards.
Yes,
although
yep.
I had no intention of shooting that far. This one was right at 300 yards, and I had, with that stealth vision scope, by then it cranked it up a little bit. So, I was probably shooting it when I got it at 3 to 18, and I probably had it cranked up to about 9 or 10, and was able to just take, he was just starting to move, just taking a slow steps, and I was able to put him down very quickly. And he turned out he was an 8-point, and as I mentioned, it takes 110 to get into the Boone and Crockett thing, and unfortunately, one of his main beams was broken off right in front of his last point forward. That G3 or whatever people call it,
right?
And probably about 8 inches of main beam was broken off. But even had he not broken that off, he would have very, very easily gone into the Boone and Crockett typical category for Coues deer, and oh my gosh! Not only, I have to mention too that while we're there, we're talking about food a little bit. We were able to pull the back straps out of that one and a couple others, and they kind of grilled those real slow to on the upper end of medium. Most people say that you got to eat it venison rare, and I don't probably agree with all that kind of thing. So this one was somewhere between a little bit beyond medium, that they grilled it with a bunch of different local seasonings that they had. And oh my God, was it absolutely delicious.
I know it was. Those folks down in Mexico, just all over, any place I've ever been down there, even just a basic old camp cook, it's just better. I bet they used juniper berries. Who knows? I know they cook with a lot of those down there,
They do with this. They did not. They had some seasonings on it, and
Yep.
most people think, well, you're in Mexico and the food's always going to be really hot. Well, that's really just kind of a Tex-Mex thing, just right along the border.
Yep.
When you get down into Mexico, they do use some peppers and things like that, but the peppers are more for seasoning than they are to try to make it so hot you can't eat it. So we had all kinds of great food. We'd come in at night, have a light breakfast, and it depends on how far we were, because the roads in those mountains are not the best, and most of the time you're hunting at least an hour away from the lodge, even though you didn't have to. But we had another guy there as well too, and his son Braden Hoffman and son Connor, and so we'd all go in separate directions, and occasionally some days you'd stay out and they'd send lunch with you because you're just too far away from camp. And then other days you'd come, if you were relatively close or you needed something, you'd come in during the middle part of the day and they'd have just a fabulous hot meal, and then you'd go back out and hunt. Come in, leave where you were at dark, and you'd get back about an hour after dark and come in and they'd have a snack for you sitting around this hacienda is huge. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and people can probably a little bit later on see a little bit more about all this in Sportsman's Life as well too. And then I've got several stories and blogs that appear at different places as well too.
Learn more about it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, Larry, on that topic, I hate to interrupt you, but we're going to probably come. I'm not through quizzing you, so we'll probably come back in segment 2 here and visit some more.
That'd be fantastic.
But you mentioned different ways. There's a new format that you have that people can subscribe to. I saw it on Facebook, I think, is where I learned about it. We might talk about that here when we come back, where they can follow everything that you do. Okay, well, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back here with Larry Weishuhn. I've got some more questions, and I bet you do too, about that fabulous Coues deer hunt that Larry just got back from. So stick with us. We'll be right back. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, if you enjoy hunting, I want to hook you up with Ultramatic Feeders. You need to know about this company. The website is ultramaticfeeders.com. They are a one-shop stop for everything you need with hunting blinds. They have all kind of different brands of hunting blinds, game feeders, parts for feeders. Again, the website is ultramaticfeeders.com. And friends, I've been using Smoking Tex electric smokers for over 15 years, probably closer to 20 years. You can go online to smokingtex.com. They're not one of your throwaway electric smokers that you can find at some package stores. These things are made to last. I've got one that I've been using for, that length of time, probably 15 years. Check them out online, smokingtex.com. Well, friends, we are back. I didn't have enough time visiting with our buddy Larry Weishuhn in segment 1, so here we are. We're back. Larry, thanks for sticking with me through the little break there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the 7 PRC, that's what you use with the Hornet ammo, did a great job. We covered all that. You were talking about the food there at the lodge. I know that was a highlight. That was a 5-day hunt? You were down there for a while, weren't you?
Actually, I was there for almost 8 days.
8 days, that's right.
Yeah, we really hunted 7 days when you got right down to it, or 6.5 days. The good thing is there is a direct flight from the DFW airport directly into Durango, Mexico, and same way coming back. So it's one of those easy places to go to if you can travel through DFW, or you make connections through there. It's a really easy flight. It takes like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something.
Oh, that's handy. Very nice.
So that was really good.
Well, okay. Now tell us about the the format that the way that people can actually see just about everything that you do. It's a subscription thing. I know it is.
Yeah, it's called Mr. Whitetail Campfire type thing, and it's on Patreon. Patreon is a site for podcasts, but also more stuff. And so a lot of the little short video clips and tips and all those kind of things, people can go there. It's a subscription, but my subscription rate to the Campfire Club that we set up is like $5 a month kind of thing. That's like buying 2 cups of coffee at a Buc-ee's.
I know that's right. Or one cup at one of the other high dollar places, Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so how do they just go online and Google that?
They can go to Patreon, Patreon / M, small r, capital W, then small HITETAIL, like Mr. Whitetail without a period. But they can go there and they can subscribe there. Dustin Warnicki does a fantastic job of putting a lot of things there. What I get to do is I just send him podcast. We have all kinds of different little things that people can listen to and watch, and even in some instances read, kind of thing that some of the things we're talking about. And I know too that he's in the process of putting one together, the same kind of site with Patreon for your radio show that we're doing right now as well too. So people need to be aware of that, and it'll have a subscription base to it. And with mine, we're going to do some giveaways, throughout. I've got several books and that I've done in the past, and then books that, I've done together, and we'll probably try to do that. Is if you listen to both of ours, maybe if you can prove that you did, we'll, kind of combine on stuff, and they'll be able to get a free copy of either Campfire Talk or Poor Man's Grizzly, as well too.
Yep.
And but there's all kinds of extra bonus type things that can be had there. And like I said, there's short videos and there's tips and gosh, we're in the process of adding all kinds of things, probably even some past television shows that I've done, going back away and trying to kind of dig through some of the archives. But really appreciate people, that might want to go there. And once we get them on there, then we need to get them on Catfish Radio with Luke Layton as well, too.
That's right. Yeah, well, this show, because after all our great radio stations run it, it's a podcast. So anybody that can look at or listen to podcast, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, all those things, they can listen to Catfish Radio, to this show anytime. But it also ties in a lot of the writing and stuff, so that's cool. I'm anxious to learn more about it. I'm not thoroughly versed in that yet, but I think it's a good format for people that want to follow what others do. I've followed some folks on it, and I think it's just a good deal. Now, to get current, hunting's not over, because in many ranches in Texas, you can hunt deer right on through the end of February, the managed land ranches. So I think it's next week I'm going to go up to Red River County, where I was born and raised until I was a big teenager, there to Bogota. There's a new friend, Mr. Bart Payne, that owns Friendswood Ranch up there in Red River County, and he's primarily, it's a high fence deal, but it's a big patch of dense Red River County woods, and anybody that's ever been to Red River County knows what I'm talking about. It's not an open pasture. It's a lot of thick cover. They hunt those deer up, but those deer, I've been talking to Bart, and I mean, it's not a, they have, some guys had like a several day hunt, and the last day they're deer, wild deer up there. But I'm going to go up there with him. I was kicking the idea around of whether to hunt. He needs to take several doe off that place for his management plan, and I think I'm going to go ahead and I could hunt a hog or doe. I think I'm going to go ahead and hunt with him and make a good video to highlight the ranch. And after all, he is a deer hunting ranch. That's what he's all about. So that's coming up. Larry, I've got something that we're going to have some fun with. The company ATN Corp that makes the thermals. They sent me a thermal scope that you and I are going. I want you to experience this because I've never had one like this when we're together with this quality. It's a high resolution scope. It's called the Thor Mini scope, and it is absolutely brilliant. It's got the different color palettes. I've got it mounted and sighted in. Pretty easy to sight in, but Larry, the thing is, the different color palettes, I never knew they'd make that much difference. But like in daylight, there's some that are with blue tints. You can just hit a button, and you'll find the palette is the screen you're looking through, the colors that show up. And you can hit a certain palette, bingo, it just lights it up where you can see it perfectly. So it's a mini scope, so it's not a great big scope, but it is extremely clear. Can't wait for me and you. We'll get down to the cottons, and these scopes you can use them day or night, but I want to use it at night. Help them clean out a hog or two out there at the cottons.
That, and there's a few coyotes and bobcats that need to come out of there as well too.
I know.
As far as I'm concerned. So.
Yeah, whatever predator wise or hog wise, we will. We'll do it. And I think it's an easy to operate. Some of the scopes that I've shown you years past, they're just not the quality that these new ones are. But this thing by ATN you're going to be impressed with it, Larry. So
the technology on a day-to-day basis almost changes with those things, and so I can't wait to have a look through it.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And this is the highest resolution, I guess. But, so we're going to have some fun with that. And you know what we've got coming up here very soon is a squirrel hunt with Mr.
As soon as I get back. As a matter of fact.
Exactly. Our friends, the Cottons, Edgar Cotton and his son, David, they're great friends of ours. But another great friend is Donnie Rice. Donnie raises, for years, he has raised champion squirrel dogs. And they're these little feist, I call them feist. They're like fox terriers, but he's bred them and through the years, and he's got a line of squirrel dogs that are, they're champions. Some of them are champions. So he's coming out, and we're going to wait till it warms up midday, probably 10:30, maybe 11, and get in, we call them hunting buggies, but in the side-by-sides, and just drive along and then loose those dogs in likely spots and get us some squirrels, Larry. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That is going to be a lot of fun. One of the things here with being at the DSC convention is just the total number of great people that are here. There are like over 1,300 booths. Attendance has been really good this year, and there's all kinds of hunts and fishing trips and equipment and all those kind of things available. And we're in Atlanta, unfortunately, this year, and because we couldn't do it in Dallas, it just wasn't big enough where the K. Bailey Hutchinson Center is to have the convention. But I want to remind everybody, too, that we're going to have the DSC Foundation Gala like we did last year there at Grapevine at the, what's the name of that hotel? I just went blank. Gaylord, Texas.
Yeah, Gaylord.
And that's going to be July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And it's going to be an absolutely great show. And we got something coming up in late March that we'll tell people about a little bit again too. The Luke Clayton Rendezvous. My God, can't wait for it to get here as well too. So.
It's coming together. I'm glad you brought that up. That is the 28th of March. It's
of March, yes, sir.
Yeah, of March. It's the Top Rail Cowboy Church, about 18 acres out there, and it's full speed ahead with that. We're making plans and. I've got a bunch of freshly caught blue catfish, and I'm going to stock up some more. I want it to be enough catfish for everybody. And David has got one of these heavy duty fish cookers now.
Oh yes, he does.
Usually our fish cooking team, which is Bill Carey, Billy Kilpatrick, my nephew, and Phil Zimmerman. They're always they love they're a team. But David Cotton, our friend, is going to be there and show them how to operate this fish cooker. It won't take long, you can cook a bunch of fish in that thing quickly. So he's going to get them operational, and then they will take it. bull by the horn, so they're the fish by the gills. And
there you go.
They're going to take
like that.
Thank you. Well, Larry, I appreciate you coming back for this second.
Thank you so much. I just remind people too that on this Patreon site thing and a few other places, if they want to learn more about this El Dorado Ranch, I'm going to try to go back again in January of 2026. Finest Coues deer hunting in the world, best food, all those kind of stuff. They can get in touch with me a lot of different places and through you and your website.
Yep.
I'll be more than happy to fill them in on the information, and can't wait to get back to Texas. Can't wait to get back down there, and we'll do that squirrel hunt here very, very shortly.
Well, friends, if you find yourself on Highway 175 heading southeast out of Dallas toward Kaufman and Athens, East Texas, you'll pass right by Crandall, Texas. Well, don't pass by. Exit right there. You'll see a big sign, Cotton Gin Restaurant. Whip in there, order you a chicken fried steak or one of the awesome items on their menu. They have live music at times on the weekends, and outdoor venue. It's just a great, fun place with some awesome food. You can go online to cottongincrandall.com and check them out. You'll probably see old Luke chowing down on a chicken fried steak when you get there.
Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy Mr. Justin Rudd and his team of experts and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, let's go down to Lake Tawakoni and visit with our buddy guide Tony Pennybaker, Catfish Guide Deluxe down there. Tony, good morning to you, buddy.
Good morning, Luke. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always enjoy getting you on the show. You know, Tony, for actually almost 15 years, I did a fishing column every Thursday is an in-depth fishing report for the Dallas Morning News. I still write a column that runs in a bunch of newspapers, but it's not just about fishing. But in that period of time, not only talking to guys like you that guided for catfish, but catfishing with people, a lot of folks around the state, I learned one pattern. In the wintertime, when that water temperature drops suddenly and abruptly, there's a shad die-off, not just on your lake at Tawakoni, but any lake. And blue catfish gorge themselves on the shad that are all they got to do is scoop them up. But we had here, a few days ago, a week or so back, a shad kill, not only on Tawakoni, but all lakes when that water temperature drops. So that's a pattern that happens. I mean, it's pretty dependable, isn't it, Tony?
It'll take place almost every year. The degree may be different depending on the severity of the cold spell and how long it keeps that water temperature down to kill them. So they'll be dying,
Yeah.
They could be dying for days or weeks. It just depends on the water temperature. So long as that's going on, those fish they're like sharks. They're out there.
Yeah.
They're feeding on those shad that are either dying or dead because it's easy pickings.
It is. And one thing, you correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. But after that happens, say at Tawakoni, we'll just use Tawakoni for a good example because there are so many blue catfish in Tawakoni. Say there is a cold spell where the water temperature gets down to 40 or maybe below, who knows, but it really drops, kills a bunch of shad. Then a lot of times after a front, you'll have a day or two, the wind will come back around to the south and it'll blow. I've caught the biggest blue catfish of my life in water 3 foot deep after one of these shad kills like that. So that's a pattern that, people think in the winter they need to be out there in 30 foot of water, but not necessarily always, right?
No, they'll go shallow. As soon as the shad start dying, that south wind's going to blow those shad up on windy banks, shores, up in their coves, in the back of them, you'll find them blues in real shallow water.
And
that's where the shad's going to end up. I've seen them just piled up on the banks, dead.
Yep.
Just pile everywhere you look, dead shad. And the blue cats and channel, they'll be right there feeding on them.
Yeah, we talk about the blue cats, of course, the channel cat too. But I'm a firm believer you can catch channel cat over a baited hole winter, summer, when I've done it, and you have too a lot. But we're talking about now is the big blue catfish time, and all they have to do, Tony, is just swim around with their mouth open up in those areas where there's so many shad. They don't have to chase them down right now. So, and a blue catfish,
it's very exciting fishing. To me, it's exciting because you go up in a shallow cove and you head up in there and you're liable to see big fish swimming on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I've even had them run into my boat.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, they run into my boat and talking about exciting. I mean, you got 3 or 4 people on the boat and they're ready to experience this catfish feeding frenzy, and you got 40-pound catfish running into your boat. And they're wanting to anchor right there.
Yeah.
Stop.
They say, I don't know anything about catfish, but I see one right there. I want to catch him. Yeah. It is.
I've had them running into my boat, and you can see them out there just surging across the top of the water, big ones.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, it's everybody. It's not just big ones. You tend to catch a bunch of eater sizes, 2, 4, 5, 6, 10 pounders, along with that ever so often pole bender that you get on there with this.
That's true. And, a blue catfish, Tony, is just a voracious feeder. I mean, you've told me, I've never actually witnessed this, but, caught them with all kind of stuff that they've eaten. I mean, I don't think they gorge themselves, really. They don't stop eating, do they?
They'll eat. It's amazing how big their stomach can get.
Yeah, yep.
But then, like in one of these shed kills, you might catch a 10 or 12 pound blue. They actually might weigh 18 or 20 pounds on the scales because his stomach's so filled up with shad. It'll just stretch, and I guess Mother Nature provides for them to eat like that, and it's a growing period too, because they're going to grow their body, and of course this time of year they're growing eggs, so Mother Nature's going to let them feed all they want to.
That's a fact. And then too, here's another phenomenon that I've always wondered about. Okay, there's a gazillion shad in the water down there. And then you've got your bait. Well, I know I fish with you enough. You might have 6 or 8 baits out. Out of those $10 billion, baits out there, they find our bait. It's amazing to me. There's got to be that tells me there's a lot of dead bait in the water, but there's also got to be a lot of catfish. I mean, what are the odds of them finding your bait? You know what I mean? I've always been.
It's fresher. The dead, they're feeding on the dead and dying.
Yeah.
But when you throw a fresher one in there.
Yeah.
Which if you got them, but, if you don't, I don't know, the splash in, you're in the shallows. When you splash that bait in, it's going to get their attention. They're going to go looking wherever that happened.
That's probably.
Them fish are feeding, and they're making a lot of noise also around the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And them fish are clued in on that. When you throw a bait in there, they'll find it.
That's probably the answer, Tony. The fact that they respond. Wait a minute, here's something moving. Let's go check it out and maybe eat it. That also kind of ties into another pattern. It's been really good at Ray Hubbard this year. They've nicknamed it. I first wrote about fishing under cormorant roost for I forget the publication, but it was down at Cedar Creek Lake 30 years ago. We went out and caught a 35-pound blue under those whitewashed trees where the cormorants droppings make them white there where they roost on them. And now they are calling that, there's an official term, splatting. I had a guy he said, invite me to go splatting. I said, wait a minute, splatting? Oh, yeah, Luke, did you know that you can fish under cormorant roost? And when that bait hits the water, we call it splatting. And those catfish, you can catch. I said, I wrote maybe the first article in a magazine about that 35 years ago, but I never called it.
Nothing new, is it?
It's not anything new, no. But the word splatting, these modern, that's new. Anyway, so maybe that's going to stick. Splatting also.
It's like noodling.
Yeah,
we called that. My grandparents, people back, they called it grabbling.
Grabbling, yes.
They did it because food wasn't easy back then, and they just get in the creek and fill out all the holes in the bank and get them mess fish to eat. They call it grabbling, and that's called noodling.
That's exactly
I
right.
call it corking for cats when I've been in the trees doing that. So now they call it splatting.
Have you heard that? Have you heard that term splatting too? Splatting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
It's like a guy told me. He said, "You want to really get it on there," and I tried this too. On a slow day, you keep a little flour in the boat, dip you up some lake water, and mix you up a little thick slurry and dip your bait in that, and then sling it up there by one of them trees.
You've told me about that.
That makes a splat. Now that's splatting there.
That's a splat with the visual.
It looks like cormorant
poop.
Took off from the branch above.
And they always drop their droppings when they flap those wings and take off. I've watched them. Yeah, there's so much. I call it subtle things in the outdoors that play. You're a very observant fisherman. I fish with Tony a lot, but you watch things like that. And to be a good fisherman, especially a cat fisherman, you need to know that kind of stuff. So you'll just use some fresh bait. We're back to the shad die-off when you're fishing 3-4 foot of water. Do you use a cork or just go ahead and throw it on? No.
I use the Santee rigs, and normally I make those things about 30 inches long.
Yep.
So basically you go up in 3 feet of water, you're fishing the same thing. You're fishing the same water column. If you're 3 or 4 foot deep, you got to wait, and your line's 24 to 30 inches long, you're floating up.
Yep.
Got that float on there, it's floating up. Same as having a bobber and floating it down 24 inches.
Same, it is. It's the same.
The only difference is I can place 6 lines across the front of my boat, and all placed, and they'll stay right where I put them. Till the fish gets on them. Exactly. And I can fish more lines like that, and the same in the back. I can put 3 or 4 out in the back and fish a ray back there and in the front, and they all stay put where they're supposed to be.
You bet.
If you had bobbers on there, you're going to have to run each one by hand.
It'd be a nightmare really trying to keep up with that many.
Well, that bobber fishing is fun.
Oh, it is.
But it's just hard to do.
Yeah.
With very many people aboard the boat.
Definitely. I love to watch I call it a cork. Watch a cork. Tony, we're about out of time, but folks, our guest here is Tony Pennybaker, and he's down at Lake Tawakoni. I know a lot of folks on all of our wonderful radio stations are listening right now, but this becomes a podcast after the stations run it, and iHeart, Apple, Spotify, all those places, people are listening to us all over, Tony. But Lake Tawakoni is about an hour east of Dallas. Tony lives right on the water. And Tony, tell them how to contact you if they want to get out at Tawakoni, which is, in my opinion, a world-class catfish spot. How do they reach you?
Just give me a call at 903-474-3078. And that's the best way.
Yep. Yeah. Give the number again, Tony, in case someone...
903-474-3078.
All right. Tony, thank you a lot, buddy, and I'm going to try to we'll get us a day when the wind's not blowing 100 miles an hour and maybe get out there and do us a winter... we call it splatting. Who knows what? We'll name it a new name. It's going to be catching catfish in the wintertime.
Yeah, just catching catfish.
Folks, I want to tell you about one of my long-term partners, and that is Pyramid Air. The website is pyramayair.com. They're a one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Big bores, little bores, PCP guns, springers, you name it. All different brands, some great airgun supplies, but also a whole lot more. Archery, ammo, optics, shooting and outdoor gear, action sports, all this stuff can be found right there and ordered through Pyramid Air. So remember, go online to pyramayair.com.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, I've been shooting and hunting with CVA muzzleloaders a long time. They are, in my opinion, the best muzzleloaders on the market. But did you know CVA also makes a very fine line of centerfire rifles, built to last and super accurate? Been hunting with those for several years. Check them both out, the muzzleloaders and the centerfires, online at cva.com. Folks, I want to introduce you to some good friends of mine at Dash for Cash Pawn Shop in Seagoville, Texas, located at 133 Hall Street. The phone number is 972-287-3121. Go by there and talk with Gary or Randy, the owner. They're great people. They've got some great prices. Again, that's the Dash for Cash Pawn Shop, Seagoville, Texas, 972-287-3121. Friends, thanks for staying with me. We've got a little time left in today's show, and I want to talk to you about making sausage at home. Now, years ago, when I had a very young family and getting started off, money was tight, I decided I'm going to start making breakfast sausage at home. It can't be that hard. Well, there were a few things that I learned quickly that I was doing wrong. So let's kind of highlight getting started making sausage, and let's think about making breakfast sausage. I guarantee you, when you make some really good breakfast sausage at home, you'll put that store-bought stuff aside. It's mostly fat. The sausage that we're going to make is going to be 80% lean meat and 20% pork fat, and it's going to have the seasonings that we like in it. So you're going to need a meat grinder, obviously. Now, back in the day, I remember I bought what I could afford, a little bitty small meat grinder, and I made some huge mistakes. I just I made venison with pork breakfast sausage. Well, I bought all the seasonings, the garlic, the black pepper, everything that you need to make sausage, the sage, and I thought, I'll just mix all this stuff. I bet I spent more on the seasonings, bulk seasoning, than I did on the grinder. Got the grinder at a garage sale, probably paid, $5 for it. Anyway, I made a huge mistake. I just chopped the venison up, left all the fat on it. I thought, hey, we'll put this fat in there. That'll make some really good sausage. And the sinew. Well, don't do that. Step number one, when you're making sausage from venison, trim all the fat. Take the time with a good sharp knife, trim that fat off and all the connective tissue. Remove all of that. Cut it into little pieces depending on what kind of grinder. Now I've got a big heavy-duty grinder I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. But back then I had a little hand crank, small one. So I stopped that thing. I'd turn the handle about 4 times, and the wheel would be plugged with all that fat and sinew there. So trim the meat up really good. Now, instead of buying all the different sage and salt and red pepper, all that stuff, garlic, why do that? What I do still to this day is buy a package of pre-mixed seasoning. Now, you're going to need a place to get supplies for making sausage. Butcher Packer Supply. Just Google that. You can order it in a couple of days. It'll come through the mail, and you'll have your seasonings. But they make seasonings for breakfast sausage, link sausage, all kind of salami, you name it. But Butcher Packer Supply, that'll give you a place to get supplies for sausage making. So you got your very lean meat, no fat, no sinew. Grind that. The first time I grind it through what I call my chili wheel. It's probably the holes in the wheel that pushes the meat through there is a little bigger, but it grinds quickly. And I'll grind a tub of that depending on how much I'm going to make. And then the 80-20. So that's the ratio that I use for pork fat to lean venison. And then after it's ground through that, I call it a coarse grind, I'll put the seasonings in there, and then I'll add a little water and mix it real good. Don't make a slush, but just put a little water where that seasoning and where you can work that meat a little bit better. Then I use the small wheel. I guess that's probably, I don't know the number on it, but it's probably a 1/8 inch holes in the wheel, the grinding plate, if you will. Probably 1/8 inch holes, and then I'll run it through that again with the seasoning in it. Now then you'll have a good fine grind that's like breakfast sausage. So pretty simple, really. Making breakfast sausage is not rocket science. The trick is getting the right ratio. Now these kits that you buy, they'll be like, be for 25 pounds of meat. So that's easy to do. Just weigh your meat out, mix that appropriate amount of the dry seasonings in there, and you got it made. So that's the way to get started. And then after I make that sausage, it's mixed well. The dry seasonings mixed well. I put it in Ziploc bags and put it in the refrigerator for about 24 hours. That allows those seasonings to do their job and kind of permeate all the meat, and it just makes for a better product, I think. I do like to, sometimes I like a little bit more red pepper in my salt breakfast sausage, and I'll fry a little after I grind it all the second time. I'll have the seasonings mixed. I'll fry a little patty up, taste it, and if it's not quite spicy enough, I'll sometimes add more red pepper, but you'll only know that by frying a little test piece and sampling it. So at some point you're going to want to move from the old hand crank grinder to an electric grinder. Probably, maybe not. Maybe you're a traditionalist and you just want to do it old school. My dad never owned an electric grinder back in the day on the farm. He, an old hand crank, but a big hand crank. If you get a hand crank grinder, get a big one. Don't get one of the little ones like old Luke started with years ago. You'll thank me later. They're not real expensive. So the grinder that I use now is one that was owned by one of the best friends I ever had, Bob Hood, who was the outdoor writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Now, I helped Bob make sausage and learned some tricks from him, too. But he had an old meat grinder. I have it now. But he had one that was made back in the late 30s. Big old, it weighs 80 pounds. And a big old heavy-duty motor on it. And Bob used to kid, said this thing would grind up a Volkswagen. And it wasn't far from the truth. But that thing, it grinds meat quickly, but you can get one with a 1-horse motor from many package stores, Bass Pro, whatever. You can find one that'll do just as good a job as this old big one, but I'm just partial to the one that, when Bob passed away, his widow gave me that, and I know Bob wanted me to have it, but I've used it for many years. Now, I don't do all my sausage making. I still, tradition more than anything, I still make some breakfast sausage every year and a few links, but Coues is a game processing in Dallas company, been around forever. I'll have 2 or 3, 4 animals a year. I'll drop them off there, but I still reserve some of that meat so I can make me some homemade sausage. It's just a tradition, and it's a whole lot of fun, a lot of work. It can be, but at some point you're going to, after you start off for sure with breakfast sausage, and then you may want to change over, start making smoked links. I did that. It took, after a year or two of breakfast sausage, I thought, I think I can learn how to do this. It's, again, not rocket science making smoked links. Order your kit from Butcher Packer, wherever you get your supplies. Order a kit of whatever type you want to make. There's all kinds of different blends of sausage seasoning for links. You'll need that. You'll need a sausage stuffer. Now, some people... I have done this. You can get a funnel that mounts on your sausage grinder, and you can stuff links with that. But that's a little bit hard, more difficult, more challenging. I've got a inexpensive sausage stuffer, which is basically just it's got a handle you crank, and it's got a plunger that pushes down and pushes that meat through a tube into the casings. Well, a casing is nothing more than a large intestine of a hog gut, cleaned out thoroughly, of course. That's what you push the seasoned meat into. So it's not hard at all to make the smoked links, but there are some tricks to it. But you would I would advise getting a sausage stuffer, a hand crank one, mount it on a board or a table, and then it'll make actually putting the meat in those casings so much easier rather than putting it in through the sausage grinder during that process. So once you get it, the casings filled with the meat, twist it every 5 or 6 inches there, so you'll have a link. You'll have to smoke it, and in the mix is sodium nitrite is included in the mix on these kits, which facilitates smoking at low temperatures. I use a Smoking Tex electric smoker, a big one I've got, and I'll put a bunch of sausage. I may put, 25 pounds or maybe more. Put it all in those racks and then put it on about 160 for 3 or 4 hours. Then I'll crank the temperature up to 190. And the whole goal is to give it a good smoke flavor. Don't overcook it. Don't burn it. And so that will require rotating that meat from the bottom rack to the top rack. In the middle rack, just keep it about every hour and a half. I will go out and move the links around so they'll cook evenly, if that makes sense to you. And then at the end, I'll make sure that those links, I use a probe thermometer, make sure that they're 160. Usually I get them up to about 180. I want that pork to be above 160, and I'll check it a bunch of links on different racks. And then it's called blooming. This is a method. What you do, you take all your links out. I take them outside with a water hose on a rack and spray them with water, cold water. That keeps the air pockets out of it, and it shrinks everything, the casings and all, and it reduces the amount of air pockets that you have in the links. But don't let all this trick you up. The main thing you want to do if you want to make sausage, start out with some easy to make breakfast sausage, and you're going to find that it's nothing like what you buy at the store. I don't know. I've bought some of the more well-known brands of breakfast sausage. It's so much fat in that. I swear. Is there any lean meat in it? I don't think so. But I think you'll be impressed with even the first batch if you use the right ratio of 25 pounds of ground meat and a bag of seasoning that's blended for that amount of meat, 25 pounds. Folks, we're out of time. I just thought I'd spend this time with you and talk about making sausage at home. We've got an interesting show next week set up. I've already got the guests lined up. Till then, I want you to have fun in the outdoors and be safe out there. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game, lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring.